Cuba, it's me. Welcome to episode 288 of the Willu Show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Now, yesterday I did my Happy New Year's Eve show, and I asked people what they thought was going to happen in 2018, but I never really, or I didn't at all, say what I thought was going to happen. So I'm going to stick to Ontario in general here and just kind of look into the crystal ball and see a couple things that I think will happen. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'll get one or two right. Maybe I'll get none of them right. But this is just kind of like the feeling I'm getting, the way 2017 went and the way we're headed. Um, First of all, I think there's a lot of promotions, but there's still quite a few towns in Ontario that don't have promotions, and I have a feeling one or two new promotions will start up this year, and we'll see if they're successful or not. And with that being said, I have a feeling one or two promotions will fold and go out of business, as always seems to happen, especially when there's so many. And a lot of people that get into starting a promotion and they run a show or two and they don't make any money, they're not in for the long run. So I'm bound to see a couple new ones and a couple of them drop out of the race. I could see about around three or four talents from Ontario getting signed to NXT or to Impact or Ring of Honor or anywhere, any kind of big promotion like that that actually pays like contracted money. I can see there's going to be a couple guys or girls from Ontario that are going to get that money, and well deserved. We have a lot of great talent here. Um, I could see one or two more wrestling schools open up. There's a lot of people in Ontario that are legends or have a lot of knowledge to pass that I could see opening up a school. Like I said, there's a lot of towns where there's not wrestling in. There's certain towns have so much wrestling and then some don't have any at all. And I could see a couple, maybe one, possibly two new wrestling schools opening up this year. Um, with that being said, there already is a lot of wrestling schools out there, and I've seen especially this year that just happened, 2017. There's a lot of new students out there looking for work, which because the way a lot of promoters are, they'll get their one or two, three or four main guys that they'll pay good money to, and then the rest they're just looking to give someone an opportunity, which means, hey, I don't got to pay this guy as much as some of the other guys. So a lot of the young guys are going to get opportunities, which makes it harder for the mid-card talent to get booked. Unless you're like one of the top guys, it's going to be harder to get booked because people won't want to pay you what you feel you're worth when these guys will do it cheaper and they can jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, I helped them from the beginning. These are just predictions. They're opinions, who knows. I can see one or two, like quote unquote, Ontario legends making a return, or just people that have a history in Ontario wrestling with the business booming. Most people that are in wrestling, it's a bit of addiction, and you can never quite scratch that itch, and that's why like you see a lot of guys that hang around, kind of like myself included, and just do like a show every month or two, or two shows a month, and whatnot, and I could see a couple of these guys coming back for a cup of coffee, and why not? Like everyone else can. Why do they put in their dues? Why can't they? I could see more people doing podcasts and video, kind of like this, radio shows, that kind of stuff. With social media, is the best way to like kind of make your way out there. And like last year, my goal was to make myself more active on social media, make more connections, try and talk to people as I'm so shy. That's why I started the Willow Show, and I encourage anybody else to start a show. Like I think that's great. Do it for yourself though. Don't do it for money or, I mean, it's a good way to market yourself, but make sure you're doing it for yourself and not thinking you're going to get a successful show, because with such a saturated market, it's really hard to really make any money or get good ratings or views or anything like that, but it's still good to keep yourself relevant and to have fun. If you're like I enjoy doing it. I could see a lot of injuries this year. People are constantly trying to do something new, come up with something different, which is hard to do in wrestling nowadays, or take that crazy bump for 75 fans in a little venue. I'm a huge person that not huge. I mean, I've done this so much in the past, and I'm very guilty of this. Doing it for nothing, thinking that maybe a scout would see or my name would get out there, and just be safe out there, guys. It's not worth killing your career before your career starts. I'm not saying don't have good matches or take a bump here and there, but just be smart about when you do it, where you're doing it, and why you're doing it. Let's keep the injuries down. But I can see if there always is. That's why I put this on the list. What else do we got? I can kind of see the way wrestling has been so successful lately. I can see some kind of big company or somebody with a lot of money come in and either start a new promotion or sponsor a current promotion and put a whole bunch of money into them. Because you got to think, somebody's going to say, hey, I want my hand in that pie, like, especially with someone money, because it takes money to make money. If someone comes along with decent money and injects it into one of these independent promotions, they're gonna go above everyone else, because that's the thing. Most of these promotions are not working on huge budgets. So if someone comes along with money, they can bring in some great talent. They can have better venues, better equipment, all that kind of stuff. So I just see that happening. Somebody big, some big investor coming in or something like that. I don't want to see this happen, and I'm not saying I want or don't want to see any of this happen. I just kind of was thinking what I think to expect coming up in 2018. But I also can see the days of Ken Hayashi is over. There's no athletic commission, but there's some things like with theater, they have some kind of commission or something like that. The government is going to try and get their hands into the pot somehow too, and somehow charge people that are running wrestling shows some kind of entertainment fee, or like an MMA. Maybe it'll be all like mixed. I don't know, because MMA is a little bit different than wrestling, but a lot of it is the same. But I can see the government somehow trying to get their hand in the pot somehow with some kind of new commissioner or something. I really hope not, though. You can expect to see a lot of gimmick matches this year, I would bet. We've seen a lot of cage matches this year, which we hadn't seen in Ontario for quite a long time, or very often anyway, when we did see them. But I can see some other kind of stuff like that happening. I know Death Proof always has some crazy inventive gimmick matches and whatnot, but I can see people thinking out of the box and trying to have something different. And no, I'm not just talking cage matches and ladder matches, but I can see a lot of those kind of matches. People always want to do those matches. As a wrestler, when you grow up and you dream to be, you want to be in one of those big highlight matches. So I can see a lot of those going on. Hopefully it's done the right way and it's done to end off the feuds and whatnot. Then I can see a lot of people teaming up together and becoming tag teams or stables. I've seen the Riot Makers have been doing it and have a lot of success. I think that's the way to go, because promoters don't have to pay you so much for gas if you get a traveling partner, and also two or three is better than one, because it's like, oh wow, you look good as a whole, and promoters are like, oh, it's something else. Everyone's just singles out for themselves. So when you team up together, it makes you look good. Even if you're not a tag team, even if you're just traveling together and hitting the shows, I can see a lot of those kind of stables and teams and traveling companions taking place and taking off where other people's have had success. I also could see Ontario starting to look at. They're going to start looking at Ontario very heavily and get heavily recruited, is what I believe, where they're going to start sending scouts. And I'm not just talking about some of the bigger promotions that already have people that with their foot in the door, like, Destiny has Santino, so he's kind of their foot into WWE, and BCW, Border City, has Scott D'Amore, and he's one of the head of Impact, so they already have their foot in the door. I can see people sending out scouts either from the WWE or Ring of Honor or anything else, or any of the other promotions that might be popping, like House of Hardcore. Any of these, I can see scouts starting to come out to the show. I truly believe that will happen. And I also see there's been quite a few guys that have broken the business in the last 1 or 2, possibly last 3 years, that are, they're looking very good. They have a lot of promise. Well, I can see 3 or 4 of these guys or girls having huge breakout years. You're gonna see some people that you're like, oh, I liked him, and he's had some really decent matches, and he's never been like the main event or the champion of any promotion. There's gonna be a couple of these guys or girls that I think are just gonna break out and be like, whoa, we never knew that they were such stars, and they're gonna have banner years, and most of them are gonna be well deserved. So that's what I think that's gonna happen. I'm gonna ask you the same thing, even though I asked the question yesterday, but a lot of people were celebrating. Do you think any of the things I say are gonna happen? Do you think I'm completely off? Do you think I'm wrong on any of them? Or is there other things that you think will happen that I didn't even touch on or I may have forgotten? Because as always, on the Willow Show, like or you get a leg drop, comment or you get a clothesline, subscribe or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba!